Julian had always been methodical, a man of quiet observation and precise habits. His office was immaculately organized, every file labeled, every number double-checked. For 20 years, he had climbed the corporate ladder with unwavering diligence, earning a reputation as someone who noticed what others overlooked. He had seen the company through economic downturns, internal reorganizations, and leadership changes. Nothing had ever surprised him until the first oddity appeared in the quarterly financial report. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, a discrepancy of $300 in a budget allocation. Any ordinary accountant would have dismissed it as a rounding error. Julian, however, noticed the pattern immediately. There was something deliberate about it, the way the numbers shifted just enough to avoid detection but still benefit someone. At first, he thought it might be a software glitch, a misentry, anything but intentional malfeasance. But as he pored over the data, line by line, month by month, the truth became undeniable: someone was cheating the company. The discovery angered him, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a cold, controlled manner. Julian had always valued fairness and integrity above all else. This was not merely a financial crime, it was a betrayal of the system he had dedicated his life to uphold. And that meant only one thing: someone on the inside was exploiting trust for personal gain. His suspicion naturally fell on Carter, the company's new finance manager. Carter had joined 6 months earlier, presenting himself as ambitious, competent, and extraordinarily sharp. On the surface, he fit perfectly into the corporate mold: charming executives and quietly intimidating subordinates. Julian had disliked him from the beginning, not because of his skills, but because of his subtle arrogance and the way he seemed to measure others for weaknesses. Now, with evidence mounting, Julian's dislike crystallized into certainty: Carter was behind the discrepancies. Yet Julian did not confront him. Doing so directly would alert Carter, and the man was far too clever to make mistakes under scrutiny. Julian needed a plan, something patient, precise, and irrevocable. He decided to gather evidence methodically, to prepare a form of revenge that would not only expose Carter but ensure his professional ruin. Julian began by scrutinizing every aspect of the company's financial operations. He worked late into the night, cross-referencing invoices, employee reimbursements, and transaction logs. He noted patterns: the days Carter tended to make entries, the particular accounts he favored, even the personal routines that hinted at when he would act impulsively. Julian created a meticulous record, a map of manipulation, without leaving a trace that he was watching. Months passed. Carter grew bolder. The small discrepancies evolved into significant transfers. He thought no one noticed, that his adjustments were invisible to the casual observer. But Julian was not casual, he was meticulous. Each transaction was documented, every signature traced, every ledger entry recorded. Julian worked quietly, methodically, always one step behind Carter but steadily closing the distance. Then Julian devised a more cunning strategy. He created a duplicate ledger, a private copy of the company's accounts that he could manipulate without anyone else knowing. Into this ledger, he began planting subtle traps: duplicate entries, deliberately ambiguous invoices, minor errors that would appear natural to someone tampering with accounts. These were not mistakes, they were bait. Julian was constructing a digital snare, designed to catch Carter in the act without possibility of denial. Carter, confident in his own skill, took the bait. Over several weeks, Julian watched from the sidelines as Carter adjusted entries in the duplicate ledger. Each correction corresponded to actual transfers in the real accounts. Julian documented every move, every timestamp, every signature. The evidence was irrefutable. Carter had walked into a trap he couldn't escape. Yet Julian remained patient. He allowed Carter to continue, gradually escalating the risk of exposure. He recorded conversations, monitored digital footprints, and collected every shred of proof necessary to construct an airtight case. Julian's revenge was not impulsive, it was deliberate, a slow, inexorable tightening of control. When the day came to act, Julian presented his findings to the board of directors. He explained, calmly and clearly, the patterns he had discovered, the discrepancies he had traced, and the methods Carter had used to exploit the system. He displayed each document, each timestamp, and every digital footprint that tied Carter to the misappropriation of funds. The board was stunned. Carter attempted to defend himself, claiming clerical errors and system glitches. But Julian's evidence was unassailable: digital trails, exact matches to unauthorized transactions, and a meticulously documented pattern of behavior. There was no room for denial. Within hours, Carter was suspended pending investigation. Julian's revenge did not stop at exposure. He knew that professional ruin was as important as proof of wrongdoing. Working quietly with human resources and legal counsel, he ensured that Carter's suspension became permanent. Letters were sent to industry contacts, subtly informing them of Carter's misconduct. References were revoked. Opportunities vanished. Carter, once a confident and respected figure, was left with nothing but the consequences of his arrogance. In the weeks that followed, Julian returned to his work with calm efficiency. The company recovered the misappropriated funds through insurance claims and legal settlements. Employees who had suspected irregularities were reassured, and systems were updated to prevent future exploitation. Julian's role remained largely invisible, his actions known only to a few top executives. Yet the effects were unmistakable: the cheater had been removed, the system secured, and justice served without spectacle. Carter's downfall became a cautionary tale in the corporate world. Within industry circles, whispers circulated of the meticulous accountant who exposed a high-level embezzler without drama or confrontation. Julian, ever discreet, allowed the story to circulate without claiming credit. There was no need for recognition. The satisfaction came from precision, patience, and the knowledge that justice had been executed flawlessly. Months later, Julian revisited the duplicate ledger he had used to ensnare Carter. It was a silent monument to strategy and foresight, a record of careful observation and deliberate action. He archived it securely, knowing it would never be needed again, yet keeping it as a reminder of the power of methodical planning. The ledger represented more than revenge; it symbolized control, intelligence, and the quiet strength of preparation. Carter, on the other hand, struggled to rebuild his life. Opportunities vanished, reputations were tarnished, and the professional network he had relied on evaporated. Every attempt to regain his footing was thwarted by the documentation Julian had left behind. There were no dramatic confrontations, no emotional outbursts, just the slow, irreversible collapse of a career built on deceit. Julian, never gloating, never spoke of his victory. His satisfaction was subtle, internal, and enduring. In his office, he continued his daily routines, checking reports, cross-referencing data, and maintaining order. The world outside moved as usual, unaware of the meticulous revenge executed in silence. Yet Julian knew the truth: no cheat, no matter how clever, could outmaneuver observation, patience, and careful planning. In the end, Julian's strategy proved enduring. The company remained secure, its finances intact, and its systems fortified against further manipulation. Carter's professional life, once thriving, was a shadow of its former self, a quiet testament to the consequences of arrogance and deceit. Julian's revenge had been precise, complete, and irrevocable. There was no need for celebration. Justice, when carried out with skill and patience, required no fanfare. Julian returned to his work undisturbed, confident in the knowledge that integrity, diligence, and meticulous attention to detail were far more powerful than confrontation or anger. The ledger remained a silent witness to the events, a record of methodical, intelligent retribution. And somewhere, Carter sat, staring at the ruins of his career, unable to escape the meticulous planning that had brought him there. Julian's victory was not loud, it was not emotional, but it was absolute. In the world of numbers, patterns, and precision, there was no escaping the consequences of cheating. Julian continued his life quietly, a man of observation and calculation. The world may have remained unaware,